starts June 1st, college football. He went, whoa, 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 slow down.
This talk of these schools wanting to bring players back on June 1st is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. But I do believe if we do it right and we don't get ahead of ourselves, that we will be able to play a season. You know, in my opinion, we need to bring them in as late as we possibly can. Every day early that we bring them in is a day we could have gotten better. It's a day we could have learned more about the virus. It's a day PPE maybe gets better. It's a day closer to a vaccine. It's a day that our testing equipment and testing capabilities get better, and it's just not worth it.
So it's interesting. Last night I talked for about 30 minutes with a friend of mine. He is on the board of a Los Angeles hospital. So he's been on the board for a long, long time. And we talked about the virus. And one of the things he said is, nobody should get it. Nobody wants to get it. But if you got it today, you'd be safer than if you got it 2 months ago, because we're learning so much about this virus. And if you got it a month from now, you'd probably be better off than if you got it today. Meaning, to Lincoln Riley's point, time equals knowledge. On my Saturday podcast, I do one of those. We're going to have Dr. Patrick Shong, a surgeon, a billionaire, a doctor who became a billionaire. He's working on a vaccine. He bought an LA hospital. He bought the LA Times, part owner of the Lakers, one of the smartest people in Los Angeles. And on the podcast, he's smarter than me or anybody that's probably watching the show. He's learning every couple of weeks. The point being, don't rush. The second thing that Lincoln Riley is spot on, you can get one shot at this. This is not pro sports. Okay, this is not pro sports. It's 85 players, college campuses. We're not going to have a start, stop. These schools are worried about lawsuits. It's either safe or it's not. If you come out and don't have your act together and there's things about this virus we don't know and you got to stop for 3 weeks, they're not going to start it back up. So you better have every ounce of information on it. Now, the good news is our doctor told me, Patrick Shong, warm weather helps fight the virus. They do now believe that's helping perhaps California and Florida, especially Georgia, with the virus, that warm weather does appear to absolutely help. And so that's good news for people that are going to be practicing in July and August, but there's no hurry. And the other thing is, it just simply, there's no reason to start June 1st. It doesn't take that long to get college kids ready to play. This is Urban Meyer on my show recently.
I've actually had some conversations, and the number that keeps coming up is 6 weeks. You know, football, you have safety issues involved, and 6 weeks, which puts you around that July 16th number that gives you time to get a team ready. And that's the conditioning. That's football's such a complex game, but the most important thing is the health and safety. A lot of these places, majority of them, are going to deal with 80, 90-degree heat. To get those kids used to running, they have to be on the move. 6 weeks out is kind of a number that we've come up with.
That means you could start as late as July 15th. 6 weeks of knowledge later than June 1st. You could start July 15th, 16th, and make it if you're playing Labor Day. For the record, not everybody even plays Labor Day. Not everybody does. So there you go. Let me shift to this. You don't hear a ton about Michael Jordan's kids. The Last Dance episodes 9 and 10 are Sunday. But I just loved this interview. I strongly encourage you to go out and read the interview between Jasmine Jordan, Michael Jordan's 27-year-old daughter, and the Associated Press. It's really good. Fascinating to hear her talk about her dad, who's very doting. You know, like all dads, Michael's a cream puff around the kids. He doesn't treat his kids like Isaiah Thomas. He babies them, he coddles them. He's a dad. And one of the things she says, Jasmine says, and I'm going to read this. She called him Silly Putty. That's how she calls him. She said, "It definitely surprises me because my dad is very private. He doesn't like to comment on social matters. He doesn't like to respond to things when people want him to. He definitely likes to move methodically on his terms and on his time. And as I'm watching this unfold, and he's emotional, he's sharing this incredible insight and perspective. It's just been incredible to see because she was a little girl during all of this, so she doesn't remember it. So she's texting her dad, and she's fascinated with her dad. And One of the things about Michael Jordan, I've always said, and I think about this all the time, what if Michael and LeBron would have played simultaneously? It would have been so fascinating. And that's just not the way it ever works, right? You never get Jack Nicklaus and Tiger in their prime. It just, for some reason in sports, it just never works that way. And maybe it's good for sports that you got Michael years and then it gets exhausted. And then we get the LeBron years. And maybe the leagues love this, that you don't have your greatest all playing in one time. Magic and Bird is about as close as it gets in sports. But Michael is the opposite of LeBron. Michael's mostly been hiding since he retired. He turned down a $100 million personal appearance. He turned it down. He's private. Michael hides. I know people that know Michael. He doesn't want to talk. I mean, he'll own a team or be a GM, but he just doesn't do stuff. That's why this documentary is so special. Like, Michael's hiding. He reminds me a little bit of Johnny Carson. Now, for those in your 20s and 30s, you don't understand how enormously important Johnny Carson was. Johnny Carson ran Los Angeles. Not a movie star. Johnny Carson ran Los Angeles. If you had a movie, you went on Johnny's show. If you had a TV show, you went on Johnny's show. If you were a comedian, you went on Johnny's show. When Johnny died, think about this. When Johnny Carson died decades ago, he left $426 million to a children's hospital. You know how much money that is today for a talk show host? For a talk show host. When Johnny retired, it was over. It was done. He played tennis, hung out with a small group of friends. That's what Michael does. That's what Michael does. You don't see him publicly. There's a certain dignity to Michael Jordan that he's not schlepping for every dollar. He's not schlepping for every appearance. He's not schlepping. He turned down $100 million. This is not a knock on LeBron. LeBron's just more social. LeBron's still playing. But one of the things I really appreciate about Michael Jordan, not everybody that's a public figure wants to be. He is a private person with a public life. Now LeBron is a public person in a public life. That's great. Magic Johnson, very much a public person, a public life. Larry Bird was a private guy in a public life. And I think more and more as I watch this, and when I read his daughter, Jasmine, I'd love to get her on the show, by the way. I think the interview is just fantastic. She's fascinated watching all this. And Michael, when you read this story, he didn't care about a lot of things. He cared about winning at basketball. He cares about his kids. And obviously, he likes winning in business. And that's it. In fact, I look at golf, and I'm like, of course he likes golf. It's exclusive and private. He can go out.